This episode contains images and content which may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. On this episode of Charged and Disbarred.
It's just like everybody was looking to take things from somebody else. I didn't know this is going to happen here in the United States too. We got that too, and I have $1 million. I didn't know about it. It's always lies.
If you're doing a Holocaust denial in Switzerland or in Germany, you'll be sentenced because the criminal law forbids to do this. It's very clear that someone who is doing Holocaust denial, someone who is committing the crime of Volksverhetzung, shall not be serving judiciary as an attorney at law.
Judges and attorneys are like kings and knights in their own realm. It is unthinkable that in a moment of madness it can all be thrown away. Charged and Disbarred explores the true life stories of attorneys who have fallen from grace. Hear firsthand accounts from the victims, detectives, and prosecutors who brought these disgraced attorneys to justice. This is Charged and Disbarred.
The word Holocaust is a word that is made up of two Greek words. The first, holos, means whole, and the second word, kostos, means burnt. This word, Holocaust, will forever be a heartbreaking and chilling reminder of the mass genocide of Jews in Nazi Germany and other Nazi-occupied territories in Europe between 1941 and 1945. The heart-wrenching reality of this horrendous act of systematic murder of fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters is no better explained than from an eyewitness account.
So I came to Auschwitz, and I was very tired. I was in that cattle train where there were 70 people. We had no toilet, nothing. Everybody was sitting on each other. So when I arrived there, I was tired, and I lay down on the floor, on the granite floor, to sleep. So I was sleeping there. All of a sudden, there is somebody is waking me up, a woman. She said, "You're sleeping. You just look outside. There is a chimney, and your parents are being burned there."
When the Second World War came to an end in Europe in May of 1945, the world was shocked by what they discovered in the Nazi concentration camps and the mass graves dotted all over Europe. Six million Jews were systematically murdered. There were also many survivors who were worked and starved to near death. The Allied soldiers could not believe their eyes when they saw the emaciated figures of the victims of these death camps standing before them. The mere fact that Gisela Weishaupt survived the death camps was a miracle. She was the only survivor of her immediate family, losing both her parents and 6 siblings. However, the harsh reality was, her ordeal was not over.
And when I went up on the train, and they were Russians, and one grabbed one of my bags and they took it away. It was like everybody was looking to take things from somebody else, and there was nobody to supervise. They should be right, so they could do what they wanted. And I didn't know that this is going to happen here in the United States too. Everybody is getting somebody else's things, and they don't account for it.
Having survived the encounter with the Russian soldier on the train and many other challenges, she finally arrived home only to find that it was occupied by the Russians. But as the old maxim goes, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That certainly was the case for Jenilee Weishaus.
I was 15 and a half years old after the war. Then I remembered my father said that he has some money hidden in the vaults. But I didn't listen to him because I ran away. So I'm going to start and look for that money. By the time I was thinking about this, the Russians lived in our house. So I couldn't see. The Russian soldiers, they used to drink, and then they used to carry on in the middle of the night. And early in the morning, they used to go to sleep. So I figured I'm going to go into the house to the attic, and I'm going to look around after they sleep already. I took a candle with a knife, and I used to go up early in the morning. I went up there about 7 weeks, every second day, third day, when I was in the mood to go up. I couldn't find nothing. All of a sudden, I was scraping on a wooden beam. A white powder came up, and I find more like this. So then I realized what my father did. He used to scrape out space in the wooden beam. He used to fill it out with the gold coins or money, and then finish it with plaster of Paris. And then he used to take dirt and put on the top. So nobody could see that this is different than the beam. Like this, I find 6 places where he hid the money.
Anyone who knew Jenilee as a young child would not be surprised by her determination and resourcefulness.
I was considered very handy, so I was able to do things that other children wouldn't do. And the same thing when I survived, when I went to Auschwitz. I didn't know about Auschwitz, so there was the selection. And that Mengele sent me to the right side.
Life unfolded for this incredible woman, and over the next few years, she would get married to her husband, Joseph. The happy couple would eventually move to the United States. It was an incredible opportunity, a chance to start a new life. It was their turn, after many years of hardship, to get a slice of the American dream pie. The events, however, that would unfold over the next few decades for this Auschwitz survivor would be unthinkable if it didn't actually happen. There have been rumors and questions for many years about what had happened to the assets of Holocaust victims and survivors. Eventually, in the mid-1990s, the world's attention was drawn to the country of Switzerland and their banks in particular. The issue at hand was over the fact that before and during World War II, Swiss banks were able to attract and retain millions of dollars worth of assets of Jewish Europeans. With Hitler's rise to power and the rise of anti-Semitic sentiment, many Jews were taking advantage of a Swiss law passed at the time, guaranteeing anonymity for anyone opening accounts and depositing assets in their banks. Jews saw this as a good solution to protect their assets from the plundering Nazi. Many of these Jews perished during the Holocaust and were therefore unable to call on their deposits. But there were survivors and heirs to those who perished, and they were entitled to these assets. But unfortunately, many of them were met with an intractable wall of bureaucracy from the Swiss banks, and only a handful were able to recover their assets. Something had to be done. What the unfortunate victims of these gross injustices committed against them needed was someone to champion their cause. That someone was Ed Fagan. Ed Fagan was born on October 20th, 1952 in Harlingen, Texas. He was raised in a conservative Jewish home, which is a branch of Judaism that seeks to conserve Jewish tradition. His level of devotion was so single-minded that he traveled to Israel and joined the Yom Kippur War in October 1973. Upon his return to the United States, he decided to study law at the Cardozo School of Law. After graduation, he pursued a career first as a personal injury lawyer and then as a corporate defense lawyer. Unfortunately for Fagan and his clients, his performance report card was not great. In fact, clients and colleagues alike stated both publicly and in court that Fagan often failed to represent his client's best interest. Fortunately for Ed Fagan, but unfortunately for Gisela Weishaus, his reputation was not known far and wide publicly. She explains how she became a client of Ed Fagan.
I went to a friend of mine who's a rabbi, and I asked him if he knows a good lawyer. So his wife said she has a cousin who's a good lawyer, and I should go to him. She gave me the address that time, and I went to that lawyer. The lawyer was Fagan.
The whole ordeal involving Ed Fagan and Gisela Weishaus began in 1995 when the World Jewish Congress began negotiations on behalf of various Jewish organizations with Swiss banks and the Swiss government over dormant Jewish World War II bank accounts. The World Jewish Congress, led by Edgar Bronfman, entered a class action in Brooklyn, New York, combining several established suits in New York, California, and the District of Columbia. As one can imagine, it took a team of lawyers to build a legal theory for the class action. Ed Fagan was part of that team. At the time, Gisela Weishaus was a client of Mr. Fagan. In the end, the banks decided to settle the claims outside of court and paid $1.25 billion to make restitution. After the settlement, Fagan could be heard bragging about the role he played, how he got the legal fees up, and how we just got some more money, as recorded on an ABC News microphone.
We just got some more money.
His colleagues, however, did not agree with him. As New York University law professor Bert Newborn said, we essentially worked around Fagan. I mean, he was there, but he played zero role in developing the legal theory, in presenting the legal theory, and in participating as a lawyer. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And 2 years after the lawsuit, Ms. Weishaus took it a step further and accused Ed Fagan of wrongdoing. Apparently, he had used restitution money for his own personal expenses.
I didn't know that Fagan used that money to pay his rent. And I find it out later. And by that time, I don't.
It is obvious that for Ed Fagan, this lawsuit was not about getting justice for his clients and making restitution for their suffering. No, for Ed Fagan, it was about making money and as much of it as he possibly could.
The wife, she was a good for nothing. She didn't care. An only child. He hated the Jews, but they loved the money. And the same was his wife. I was 2 times in their house. She couldn't take a Holocaust survivor. It was somebody who was no good animal. But when it came to the money, her father put down, when he heard that I made a claim against the Swiss money, father put down a money judgment that is coming to him, $2.5 million. He got that $2.5 million. I didn't know about it. So how I find out? Later on, I had to be in the department there and over my head. I went there. A woman, a lawyer who I know, she approached me. He says, why weren't you here when Fagan's father got the money judgment? I says, I didn't know anything about it. She said, yeah, he put in a money judgment, and he got the money, and then he bought a palace in Florida.
Gisela Weishaus duly confronted Fagan regarding his dealings with the restitution money. His response was to discredit her as mentally ill.
He wrote that I'm mentally sick, I'm taking medication. I never did it, and it's all his lies.
2 years after the settlement was made with the Swiss banks, Gisela Weishaus, in spite of being named as the plaintiff, decided to opt out of the settlement, citing that her attorneys were collecting $1 million paydays for themselves, and this before survivors had even seen a cent of their restitution money. It was unthinkable that after everything Gisela Weishaus and others like her had endured in the Nazi death camps, losing friends and family, and having their lives ripped from them at such a young age, they now have to endure not only fighting for what was rightfully theirs, but even that which was left was now taken from them. One would think that Ed Fagan, after having grown up Jewish and having heard stories of the atrocities that his fellow Jews suffered during World War II, that he, of all people, will be motivated by justice and not greed. Many of Ed Fagan's clients accused him of dumping their personal injury cases in order to pursue the more profitable Holocaust restitution cases. Court documents show that a client of Fagan sued him for malpractice and won $3.2 million. Since 2005, Fagan had ethics investigations regarding the misappropriation of clients' money filed against him repeatedly. Eventually, in January 2009, Fagan's greed would catch up with him. He was disbarred based on the recommendation of a special ethics master to the State Disciplinary Board of New Jersey. They decided that Ed Fagan be disbarred and banned from practicing law in the state. The reason given? It was found that Mr. Fagan had misappropriated hundreds of thousands of dollars entrusted to him by Holocaust survivors.
Still to come, uncharged and disbarred.
If you're doing a Holocaust denial in Switzerland or in Germany, you'll be sentenced because the criminal law forbids to do this. According to German law, denial of Holocaust is a severe case. It's very clear that someone who is doing Holocaust denial, someone who is committing the crime of Volksverhetzung, shall not be serving judiciary as an attorney at law.
This is charged and disbarred.
The word delusion is defined in the dictionary as an idiosyncratic belief or impression that is firmly maintained despite being contradicted by what is generally accepted as reality or rational arguments. Say, for example, one were to deny the Holocaust, such a belief would be deemed delusional because the evidence that it actually took place is overwhelming. In building their case against the leaders of Nazi Germany for the Nuremberg trial, the Allies, led by American Chief Prosecutor Robert Jackson, wanted to make sure that there was a record made of the Hitler regime and its criminal activities. They were concerned that future generations would not believe the horrifying truth. So, instead of relying mainly on personal testimony and eyewitness accounts that could be questioned as biased by later generations, prosecutors decided to base their case primarily on thousands of documents written by the Germans. Evidence ranged from letters, artifacts, diagrams, and photographs of the concentration camps produced by the Germans themselves. The evidence was and is so overwhelming that it is a crime in Germany to deny the Holocaust took place.
The first thing that's valid for everybody, and if you're doing a Holocaust denial in Switzerland or in Germany, you will be sentenced because the criminal law forbids to do this.
One such delusional person is Sylvia Stolz, a lawyer from Germany.
In meinem Vortrag habe ich von meinen Erfahrungen als Strafverteidigerin sogenannter Holocaustleugner.
It all started when Stolz served on the defense team of Ernst Zundel, March 2006 in Germany. Zundel was being prosecuted for distributing anti-Semitic literature, which included Holocaust denial. Sylvia Stolz acted as Zundel's public defender. The trial, however, was constantly disrupted by Ms. Stolz. Eventually, the judge ordered that Stolz be removed from the courtroom as her repeated disruptions made it impossible for proceedings to continue in an orderly fashion.
Bestreiten oder in Zweifel ziehen.
Those disruptions included her yelling that the Holocaust was the biggest lie in history. She publicly accused the judge of aiding the enemy and therefore deserved the death penalty. In the aftermath of this controversial trial, Zundel was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and in 2008, Sylvia Stolz was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison and was disbarred as a lawyer. She lost her license to practice law for a period of 5 years. This, however, did not stop this delusional Holocaust denier from spreading her poison elsewhere.
Well, if you say the Sylvia Stolz case, so there are several cases, and I only came in, you can say, in the last episode of the Stolz case. There's an organization called Zensurkoalition, so that means in English, coalition against censorship. That's a very queer organization. The leader is a very religious man, and he was organizing every year a conference in Chur, in the Grisons, the canton of Grisons. At the conference in the year 2014, he invited Sylvia Stolz to speak about the Holocaust.
Habe ich von meinen Erfahrungen als Strafverteidigerin, sogenannter
But I
Holocaust-Leugner.
learned about the conference later on when other people, they called me and let me know about the conference and about the video of the speech of Sylvia Stolz that had been put online. On one hand, it was people that were fighting against racism and against neo-Nazis in Switzerland. On the other hand, it were people whose families were very close to the Holocaust. So they were calling me up because I'm at this time was sort of a specialist of these anti-racism standards in Swiss penal law, especially of this Article 261b of the Swiss Penal Code. So they wanted to know whether it was legal what Sylvia Stolz did or not. The question whether it is legal or not arises because this Article 261b of the Swiss Penal Code declares denial of genocide as non-conform with Swiss legislation, and you can get sued and fined for denial of genocide and especially denial of Holocaust.
The big question for Daniel Kettiger was this speech of Sylvia Stolz and the publishing of it online a breach of Article 261b of the Swiss Penal Code? If it was, should he be the one to report this information to the prosecutor, or should the group of people who brought the speech to his attention report it?
I looked at it for several times and I came to the result that at least part of it and the whole of the speech could be an offender against this anti-racism norm in the Swiss Penal Code. There was a discussion whether to report to the public prosecutor or not. We decided that I would report this video and this speech at this conference to the public prosecutor in charge.
It is interesting to note that German law for some crimes are not bound to German borders.
German natives, they are under German law even if they commit the crime abroad.
Mr. Kettiger brought the Stolz speech and published the video to the attention of the public prosecutor in Switzerland. Swiss officials decided that German authorities should be the ones to handle the case, as it still fell under their jurisdiction.
Sylvia Stolz is of German nation. That's why the prosecutor's office in Munich took over the case. I think we have to hold apart two things. One is to be sentenced for a crime in the sense of criminal law, and the other thing is to be disbarred as an attorney at law. The first thing that's valid for everybody, and if you're doing a Holocaust denial in Switzerland or in Germany, you will be sentenced because the criminal law forbids to do this. The other thing is what should be the reasons to disbar an attorney. Not every being sentenced for a crime will lead to disbarring, so it must be really a severe case. And according to German law, denial of Holocaust is a severe case. It's what is called in terms of criminal law Volksverhetzung. In Germany, it's very clear that someone who is doing Holocaust denial, someone who is committing the crime of Volksverhetzung, shall not be serving judiciary as an attorney at law.
Throughout the years, neo-Nazis, Holocaust deniers, and anti-Semites have often shown aggression when protesting their point of view. Threats of violence or retaliation from anyone who opposes them is commonplace. The Sylvia Stolz case would prove no different.
When I reported this case to the prosecutor's office, then I had two sorts of backlashes or reactions. The first one was the reactions I always had when I was pursuing some person because of racism and it was getting public. There are a lot of people, they don't like this, and then they are sending you spam emails or sending you letters, threatening you, they will kill you and stuff like this. Unfortunately, this got quite normal in Switzerland when you're doing this job. You have to take this, that there are people sending you letters with this content and people threatening you and stuff like this.
But then,
Der
it
schweizerische
got quite
Rechtsanwalt
personal.
Daniel Kettiger habe Stolz und Sasek wegen Leugnung des Holocaust angezeigt.
The second reaction was from Sylvia Stolz herself. She produced a video that was published on the website of AKZ, and in this video she said that I certainly will not have heard what she said, and that I reported to the prosecutor's office without knowing what I was doing. She pretended that I was doing a report to the penal authorities without having heard the whole of her speech. That certainly was untrue, and then I took action against Ivo Sasek so that he had to cut this video and he had to insert my reaction to this video into this video.
Sylvia Stolz set out to discredit Daniel Kettiger by any means necessary. However, she also underestimated him.
If Sylvia Stolz returns to Switzerland again and in some other conference she will do Holocaust denial, I probably will do the same thing again.
As dishonorable as Sylvia Stolz and attorneys like her are, there are many more honorable proponents of the legal profession.
The whole fight against racism, and denial of genocide or denial of Holocaust is one part of racism, is one form of racism. But certainly there are other cases of racism, and for me it's very important that everybody is equal and that all races on this earth are living together. Therefore, for me it's quite an ugly thing if there is racism. So it's a little bit more than just a lawyer's affair, it's a little bit also a heart affair of mine.
The passion that drives lawyers like Daniel Kettiger to fight for justice and truth is fueled by the desire to limit the damage caused by the malicious and delusional behavior of people such as Sylvia Stolz.
From my opinion, denying Holocaust is really a very, very bad thing. You're denying a fact of history. History always allows mankind to learn.
In the wise words of George Santayana,
those who forgot the past are doomed to repeat it, and that's especially the case with Holocaust and other genocides.